And again, it's hello, everyone, for Doug Brophy, Ken Frost, and myself, Ron Hunke. We just arrived a very short while ago here in White River, Ontario, and Doug, it's been quite a day.
Well, we left Sault Ste. Marie at around 8 o'clock this morning. After about an hour and a half's drive, we pulled up at a construction camp at the side of the road. Now, this was the end of the line for anyone traveling without a pass and an official escort from the Highways Department.
That's right. We picked up our official escort there, a four-wheel drive highways vehicle that was prepared to pull us through the bad stretches, and off we went. And actually, Doug, looking back on it now, it was quite an adventure in places.
Well, it certainly didn't look as though we were going to have any trouble when we started off from the barricade. A beautiful, smooth stretch of pavement, not a mark on it. This section isn't open to the public as yet, but I'm afraid it didn't last long. About 10 or 15 miles from the community of Wawa, we saw why the highways people were so cautious. The pavement ended, and blocking the road, and I use the term loosely, were a couple of giant power shovels, the largest trucks I've ever seen, and a stretch of ground that had less resemblance to a highway than anything I've ever seen before. Those giant shovels biting away the rock and soil for what would be roadbed really gave us an idea of what a road builder was up against at times. And in our little convoy, we had to pick our way around the boulders, some larger than a kitchen chair, and through sand and earth that must have been a foot deep in stretches. I'm glad you were at the wheel there, Ron.
Well, I was sorry for a little while, Doug, but actually it worked out very well. I'm sure the engineers of this particular stretch of the Trans-Canada Highway will forgive me for saying that this is by far the roughest day that we've yet been through on this Trans-Canada tour. It's been the testing ground for Chevrolet's Positraction rear axle. Now, I'd heard of this Positraction before, of course, but I wouldn't have believed the amazing difference that this Chevrolet option makes. With Positraction, the driving force goes to the wheel with the grip. So instead of sitting with one rear wheel spinning deeper and deeper in, the other rear wheel takes hold and moves you out of trouble. And there's no delay in taking up the strain. Your wheels are biting all the time. As Doug said, we hit a couple of very sandy and deep spots today where I'd have sworn there wasn't anything to give us traction, and yet we drove right on through them. I guess the way to say it, perhaps, is that Positraction is like having snow tires that won't slip no matter what. And here's the important thing. Positraction costs very little more than a good set of snow tires, but it lasts for the life of your car. Your Chevrolet dealer probably has a car equipped with Positraction. Why don't you look into this handy feature? Just after this first really bad stretch we just mentioned, as we said, the worst by far we've hit on our travels, we were into Wawa, this community of 4,000 people that have never had any contact with the outside world by motor car. They've had to depend on the railway and the airplane. Now, all of a sudden, the Trans-Canada Highway will pass right through their community. They gave us and our Chevy quite a reception, and after a very pleasant luncheon, Doug put the all-important question to a group of them.
Well, now, gentlemen, at the luncheon, we heard the town of Wawa described as the Florida of the North Shore of the Lake Superior, the Squaw Valley of so-and-so. Tell me, actually, what will the highway mean when it comes through here?
Well, it would mean second industry, an outlet for the people that's been isolated for all this time. And I think really everybody's going to be very happy, and it'll make a lot happier town to live in.
How far back does your history go?
Well, the history of the town basically goes back for a matter of 100 years, back to the time when the CPR was being built and equipment was brought in from the eastern part of Ontario to assist with the construction of the railway.
Before the road came through, it is a fact that Wawa was virtually cut off as far as transportation, motor car transportation.
That's right. We had no transportation other to fly out or else take the train, and it was a 2-day trip, and it cost $100 to ship your automobile out.
Well, but now what about, will the town prepare for the coming of this highway with respect, say, to motels or some sort of tourist attractions?
Well, I understand there's already some preparation, and there's no doubt that next summer we'll see a great change in the local scene.
Wawa in Indian means wild goose, is that
It
correct?
means wild goose, that's
And
right.
I'm fascinated with your idea of inaugurating the highway. Would you tell us about it?
You mean of setting up this monument at the intersection of the highway? Well, this goose will be sitting on an 8-foot base, and the base will be 10 by 15 foot, and the goose will be 18 foot tall and 23 feet long, and it will be at a place where it can be seen from the highway, and there will be signs marking it at different intersections, and you'll be known as the land of the big goose.
So if you're traveling the Trans-Canada through northern Ontario via Route 17 later on this year when it's officially opened, keep an eye out for Wawa and the Goose, won't you? It'll be worth seeing.
The stretch of highway from Wawa to White River was no picnic either. Again, we had miles and miles, at least it seemed that long, miles of this deep sand to work our way through. And it's easy to see why the road isn't open to the public as yet. Anyway, here we are in White River. We didn't have to use our four-wheel drive escort after all. Just after we got in, we stopped at the highways offices here where Mr. Earl Kenny, the regional engineer, gave us some idea of what is involved in building a road such as this one. I thought we had some very difficult traveling when we came through Newfoundland, but the drive this morning from the Sioux right up here to White River was something to think about, sir. How difficult was it for you as road builders to get that through?
It was very difficult on the start because we had 108 miles of virgin territory and practically no access to any part of it except at both ends and in the center at Wawa.
The road existed from the Sioux up to Wawa, and I take it from here on in it's opening a lot of communities that were heretofore inaccessible.
No, the original road was built up to the Agua River, some 51 miles from Wawa.
Well, what about the construction itself, sir? Muskeg, marshes, lots of virgin territory, rock, trees, just about everything conceivable, I suppose.
That's right. The first thing that we had to do was go in and clear the right-of-way all through this 108 miles.
Where the road didn't exist, how did you get your equipment in?
From the lower end, we started in at the lower end at the Agua River and worked progressively north. The second contract that was let was from 5 miles north of the Agua to 15. All contractors' equipment, all our own supplies and everything had to be brought up by barge along the west shore of Lake Superior.
Well, we saw road building today at its worst and at its best, if I may put it that way. At its worst to show just how difficult it is for you chaps to get into country like this, and at its best to see all that equipment really gouging out the earth and getting the thing well underway. How is it going with respect to schedule? Are you on schedule? Or?
Well, we may be very little behind, but we fully expect to carry out our program as it was originally designed, and we think that there will be a great improvement from now on.
And the official opening is slated for September 16th and 17th, and it'll be quite a road when it's finished through some of the most beautiful country I've ever seen. Doug, what do you think?
I like that causeway over the arm of the bay today to cut off a sharp curve, and then those cuts right through the steep cliffs and all that tremendous amount of fill they had to make it up to TCH standards.
They've certainly had a lot of work to do.
Well, tonight here in White River, the red carpet treatment for the three of us and the Chevy, thanks to Reeve Naldo Bracci and the local Chevy dealer. We'll be telling you about it tomorrow when we'll be reporting from the lakehead.
They tell us, Doug, this is the best fishing country in northern Ontario. We're going to have to try and find out.
Must keep an eye out for the moose, too. The Reeve told me they're all around here. Well, then, Doug Brophy for Ron Hunke and Ken Frost saying goodbye from White River.